Hey, how we doing?
Hello.
Are you over there?
I am over there.
Awesome. So, welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast. This is episode 56 with the Launchpad Media. Always launching ideas in your direction. I am the host, Nikki B, here with my lovely wife and co-host, Lizzie. Are we having a good day?
Yeah, it's a good day.
It is a good day. So, folks, you're going to see we're doing some things a little differently now.
Shaking it up.
We'll see how things go, see how you like it. Let us know, in the comments and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Send us emails and tell us what you think. But we're going to get right into our interview today. This is us sitting down with Mr. Remso Martinez to talk about his upcoming book and, stuff that we wanted to talk about. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast, Remso. This is your second appearance on the show.
Yeah.
How you doing
Thanks.
today?
It's great to be here. Can't complain. It's nice and rainy outside, so the swamp is getting a washing.
Nice.
But it's all right. As soon as it dries up, it'll be back to normal.
So it's funny. It is a gorgeous day here. So, which is odd because usually Cleveland's a complete shithole.
Weather-wise.
No, you never hear anything nice about Cleveland, even the weather.
I mean, you hear about the racial segregation. There's a lot of that.
Oh, jeez. Just starting in on the city right off the bat.
I live here.
I know. I live here.
I work here.
I kind of
It's
like it.
It's like emotional heroin for the listener. Oh, they're immediately jumping into that? Okay.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's really rough if you're into fashion at all. Because once you say you're from Cleveland, they're like, oh, the place that was voted like the worst dressed city in the country. Good job.
I'm not into fashion, so I would have had no idea. I would have just assumed, So, anyways, so what have you been up to, Remso? What do you got on the plate these days? You're always one of those guys that's super busy. I know you've got a new book coming out. I keep hearing you. Apparently, you have I thought you ended your podcast, and then I found out you started a new podcast, and apparently didn't promote it all that well.
Oh, brother, it's been a minute since we spoke, so a lot of stuff has happened. But let me see. In the past year since I last spoke to you, I went back to political consulting, and then I burned that business to the ground. Then I went to go work at GameStop as a cashier during the holidays, and then I sold makeup door to door. In between that, I had a TV show which won an award. It won a Indie Series 2019 award for Best Nonfiction Series. Brought back the podcast as the Remso Martinez experience. And you want to know what's really freaking funny about that? I did that just because I was bored and I missed podcasting. And I really, you're right, I really put really no effort into it. Now it's not even on a schedule. It's just whenever I feel like doing it. But, the first 5 episodes of that show alone got more downloads than the last 2 seasons of my show when I was doing the podcast full time. So it was really freaking weird.
That is
and
really
ironically, it came from all the people that had never really heard about me, but had gotten copies of my book.
Yeah.
So the book was the best promotion for the podcast. And now when I do the podcast episodes, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm very lackadaisical with the editing, and the music is kind of stocky, but we have better conversations. I'm a lot more chill when I do it. I'm less bitchy and radio shock about it. So we're getting crazy downloads each episode that I had never seen before. So I'm like, holy crap, whatever's working now is apparently working, because I don't have to do much and people are loving it. So, I'm just going to ride that for as long as possible. And all this really came together for my upcoming book, How to Succeed in Politics and Other Forms of Devil Worship. Because in a way, it's really kind of a send-off to a part of my life where politics really was everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was working, I was a consultant for a while until I realized this is just not going anywhere good if I keep progressing in this career path. And then I was working all these, dead-end jobs to kind of, fund all my other political outlets. So writing this book was really, very much a farewell letter to that world, and also a cautionary tale to anyone that think they might want to, really jump into politics full time. I mean, the story is it's historical fiction, so it's not based about my life, much like the first book was. But what it's really good at is it's really good at telling multiple stories of people who are basically trying to do anything possible to succeed in politics at the cost of their life. So all this stuff is going on, all this craziness. Podcast is dead. It's back to life. I'm never writing another book. Oh, I just wrote another. I'm going to go back to consulting, and now I'm working at GameStop. And oops, that's not working out. So I'm going to go sell makeup door to door in the worst parts of DC and Maryland. And now,
so many questions.
now I am starting a brand new full-time job as the social media coordinator for the Washington Times, one of America's top 5 most trusted newspapers.
It sounds like something someone has to say when they're on TV. Like they're under contract to say it. It's one of many things, but it's also very true.
I would want to say that if that were my new job. I'd be like, yeah, that's right.
If I were at the Washington Post, I'd be like, yeah, we make shit up on the regular, but this is a good place. I'm really, really excited to work
Isn't
there.
Washington Post Amazon now?
It's basically Bezos News.
Okay.
Nice.
I've been calling it the Bezos Pravda for a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's not like he's not tied into the CIA, so what's the difference?
We can't talk about that.
I mean,
Nick, that's a conspiracy, Nick.
It's talked about regularly because they have open contracts with the CIA. I don't know why we wouldn't be able to talk about that.
Because it's inconvenient, Nick. It's inconvenient.
So I'm curious, how does door-to-door makeup sales work? Because that fascinates me.
Okay, so full story on this, and just so you know up front, I only worked there for 3 weeks before I ran away.
It sounds like a wonderful job.
Shortest job ever. So I was leaving politics and everything, so I was looking for a job that could still utilize some of my skills. So I went to go work for this place that billed itself as a marketing company. Now my real skills are as a copywriter. I can do real good ad copy for small businesses and big brands and everything in between. So I'm like, I'm gonna go do advertising. It'll be like Mad Men. It'll be awesome. But they kind of snookered me because they began to talk about direct advertising. And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, well, it's also known as direct marketing. So I'm like, so we're like going to go set up like booths and stuff at, fairs and malls and get people to try products. And they're like, yeah, something like that. So I end up being told, you're going to go work in like the sports marketing section of this. Do you like the Orioles? And they knew that I was a big Orioles fan. So I'm like, yeah, of course I love the Orioles. I'll do anything for them. Yeah, just tell me what to do. So they're like, okay, so we need you to start at the ground floor. So I'm like, okay, what's the ground floor? And they're like, well, you're going to have to go work for this real awesome killer client from Los Angeles. They do a makeup company. Just do this for a little bit and you'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? So they give me a map and a trainer, and they send me and him to like parts of Maryland and DC. And our job is to go bug people business to business while they're working. I mean, and sell them bags of makeup.
Dude, that's such a snookering because like you say direct marketing. Direct marketing is usually like print marketing. It's mail marketing. It's email. It's Facebook marketing. So you go in looking for direct marketing, and then you all of a sudden you're a samples girl.
Oh, worse. I was the makeup man.
Yeah.
People love a samples girl. I wasn't even giving out free shit. I was giving out, it was $200 worth of makeup products in this little bag for like $20. So You're always doing a promotion. I'm like, guys, when does the promotion end? And they're like, Remso, shut up. The promotion never ends. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I look at the back of the box one day and I'm like, holy crap, this is all made in China. And then the same day, we're on a conference call, and I found out that our business as a whole, our branch, had 8 Better Business Bureau violations.
Liz, didn't you work for this company at one point?
I'm literally sitting here thinking like, this sounds so stinking familiar.
Didn't you remember when we first started dating? You had that bag of like makeup in the house, and I always like, why is this here? And can I throw it out?
This is getting creepy.
Yeah, no, because
So anyway, eventually, like 2.5 weeks in, they're like, wow, you survived this long and you haven't ran away. I'm like, yeah, do people usually do this? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what's the big deal? And they're like, listen, man, there is no client. This is a shell company owned by the same guy that owns the makeup company. And this is just a way to get certain tax write-offs and to sell a lot of makeup without actually owning a store or really pushing anything on online sales. So I'm like, so you're telling me that we're the makeup people? And he's like, yeah, Remso, we're the makeup people. So I'm having an existential crisis because I was actually
It's a hell of an existential crisis.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I'm drinking after work one day and I'm like, oh my God, like what the fuck am I doing with my life? And I just start praying. I'm like, God, I need a sign and I need it fast and I need it now. And you should never question the Lord because he'll deliver. And the very next day, I'm in a place called University Boulevard, Maryland, also known as Mexico City, Maryland. And God decides to send down three Mexican gangbangers who decide to try and mug me. So luckily, I get away from them. I get far enough away. I'm unharmed. I have my makeup still. So I'm like, well, crap. Like, this is the last hour of my day. And that seems like a sign. I was able to get away from them. But, you know, I wonder if that was really it, or if that was just coincidence. Never challenge the Lord because he'll fuck you up. What he did was, as I'm sitting in my car in a Shell gas station parking lot, is this little blonde teenage girl, like looks like she's shivering even though it's like 100 degrees outside. She walks directly in front of my freaking Kia Soul and she collapses and she starts like foaming at the mouth. And this chick had OD'd on something. So then I have to do my favorite thing in the world. I have to deal with the cops. So I call the cops. They get her taken care of and everything. But what I realize is between the mugging and the overdosing chick, I didn't meet my sales quota for the day. So I go back to the office and I tell my boss what happened. And he's like, Remso, you know, that really sucks, but that's no excuse to have affected your attitude. And did you at least try selling the cops a bag of makeup each? So I looked at him, I smiled, I asked for my paycheck, I went home and I wrote my resignation letter. And a week later, I got hired by the Washington Times.
Wow.
Well, a few weeks later, but yeah, that was a 3-week stint as a door-to-door makeup salesman. I ruined all my favorite pairs of shoes, and I got to experience like the worst of humanity. But yeah.
I mean, but did you just call Mexicans like the bane of humanity? Like all the worst parts of humanity?
I don't think.
No, there was more than Mexicans. It was the whites, the blacks. I out-Jewed a Jew at one point.
Oh God.
Humanity is terrible. Life is painful.
Good Lord, isn't it?
Life is suffering. Okay. But no, actually, that's really kind of hopeful because, like, there's a lot of, I feel like, us that are out there kind of trying to figure out how to get to where the hell we're supposed to be going. And, you know, it's cool to have you be honest and say, like, yeah, I did some, like, kind of shitty jobs.
I was a political consultant one week, and then I was working at GameStop the next week.
Something awesome.
Like, you know, usually, like, I think everyone tries to imagine their life as a movie. It's like things can only get better from here. But since 2017 onward, things were not going really great. Like, I graduated from college and I told my parents, let me do a full-time podcast and media company with Ryan, my brother. And if it doesn't work after 6 months, we'll move on to something else. Well, flash forward, it doesn't work out. So he goes back to college full-time. And I'm looking for a job. So what happens? I end up being a mall cop. At that point, after 3-4 months of being a mall cop, I'm like, I could go back to political consulting. I made good money. I have good connections. There's an election year. I could do it. So end up doing that. I'm making good money as a political consultant, but I'm working with like the most evil people that have ever lived. So I'm like, I need to get away from this. So I end up leaving that, a good paying job, to go work minimum wage at GameStop. And from there, I'm like, this could get so much better or worse. So I quit that. I started a copywriting business out of my basement. That was doing fairly well. Then I got hired by the makeup scam artists, and that went down again. And then I found myself unemployed. And now I'm here actually working my dream job. And between that, I did like 4 documentaries, a TV series, and a best-selling book. So things look good on the outside, but in reality, it was actually a really shitty experience.
Isn't
Long story short,
isn't that just being a libertarian in a nutshell?
Literally.
I mean, it sounds all glamorous, and you look at it, and then you're like, oh wait, all those speaking engagements you didn't get paid for.
Oh, what's fun though? Like, I actually did enjoy working at GameStop, because here I am. My boss asked me, it's like, Remso, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I wrote a book, and everyone who's working looks at me. They're like, then why are you here? And I'm like, because you don't make much money in books. So then they start laughing at me. But, GameStop was actually pretty chill, because I got a great 20% off employee discount during the holidays.
Nice.
So, I mean, that was nice. And it was just a really humbling experience, because I live in, I've been in DC since 2008, and often people think of this as the richest area in the country, which it is. But, we often don't really pay attention to people that, clean our shit, cook our foods, walk our dogs, that type of thing. So kind of living much of a blue collar year, really did a lot to humble me. And I remember at GameStop one time, I had a line of people, a kid that was buying a used game, and he saw my class ring from Liberty University. He was like, man, where'd you get that ring from? And I'm like, it's my graduation ring from college. And he looked at me, he's like, college? What, you working at GameStop, son? And I'm like, I looked at him, and my boss is behind me, so I don't want to say something that will either piss off my boss or make the kid cry, because I wanted to make the kid cry and say life doesn't get better. But instead, I winked and I said, I'm here working because I love working. And he took his game, and I told him to leave. So...
See, I hear that story, and I'm just like, I live in DC. I'm doing this because these idiots around me tanked the economy for the past 100 years.
I want to tell him about war. I want to tell him about the bank institutions. I want to talk to him about everything. I want to really just wreck his world. But he was only 12, so I think maybe when he's 15, he'll be in for a rude awakening.
Oh, look. I'll let it slide because it's technically somebody else's kid, but that doesn't get my kid out of it. Fuck no. I'll tell her everything.
No, my kid's gotta be morbidly depressed. I
don't know how my kid isn't.
Just burdened
I think
with
she
knowledge.
just ignores me. Literally.
I mean, whatever works. But in that moment, I'm like, I'm on the clock. I can't talk about this. It's like, kid, if you want to hang outside in 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you all about the Federal Reserve and the Great Society. And we'll talk about everything. You want to get meta, dude? We'll talk about aliens and crap. It can go very far.
I was laughing because one of our friends, Tim Finnegan, posted on his Facebook the other day about, he's like, just so everybody, doesn't feel down on themselves. Here's a photo of, your favorite friendly anarchist friend, Tim, kissing a statue of FDR back when he was a dirty commie. So, there's hope for everybody. All the lost. So
yeah, everyone has to go through a phase in their life. I'm just lucky to have gone through a very Forrest Gump type of year. I didn't ask for these situations; they just kind of happened.
Well, if nothing else, it sounds like if you ever do decide to write the memoirs, that's going to be an interesting book in and of itself. So
yeah, I mean, I was a mall cop, GameStop employee, door-to-door salesman, and I was running around between politics and media in between. Yeah.
So that's the thing I keep coming back to. So when you talk about the media, you talk about you working as within politics and doing that whole political consulting thing. You don't talk about that as if it wasn't something that was going to provide for you if you chose to keep doing it. You talk about it as something it's like, I had to get the fuck out of this because there's no good coming from it. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, and this is what really kind of pushed me to start thinking about the upcoming book. But, money, like here's the thing about money. If you really think about it, money is actually easy to come by. Not maybe the amounts will vary, but if you need money, money is easy to come by. So if your goal is just to obtain as much money as possible, there are ways for you to do it. But if your personal relationships are trash, if your health and your mental health are both trash, if you don't like the people you're working with and they're trash, you're going to just literally end up dead in a dumpster because the people that you thought were your friends and maybe some of your own coworkers and clients will have dumped you there. And then what are people going to go ahead and look at you and say, wow, there's a dead Puerto Rican guy in the trash can. So looking at that potential future, I was like, I don't want to be the dead Puerto Rican guy in the trash can. So I can get money elsewhere. Let's try GameStop. So it really did kind of make me mature fast because I had been involved in politics since college, everything from interning to consulting to staffing, managing. And,
there's something in there that's like, to me, like, there's something in there that's so libertarian just about that attitude. We used to talk to this girl back in the day, and me and her, the reason I stopped talking to her ultimately is because she talked about, oh, well, my mom's trying to sell her apartment. Fuck her, because I haven't found a job in my field, after I graduated college. And I made a joke, well, there's always McDonald's. There's always a way to make money if you need to make money. Maybe not a lot of money, but, you can make some money. And she scoffed at me. I have a master's and can speak 14 languages fluently. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't stop the rent check from coming, so get your shit in order. The whole thing that happened, I think, was right around that 2008 time period where people just, they stopped seeing that, well, at the end of the day, your bills still need to be paid. It doesn't matter what credential you have. If you can't worry about that first part, who gives a shit about the second?
Oh, absolutely. And there are a lot of people that will go on past college anticipating certain jobs to arrive that aren't coming. And very fast, what you realize is that you really have no value to anybody. In the 3 weeks I was a door-to-door makeup salesman, I actually got to sit on an interview with this chick who had just graduated with her master's degree from Georgetown University. And literally her entire life, she was about 27, 28, her entire life had just been academics. Yep. And the only job she ever had was as a teacher's assistant. So she shows up for this job in, quote, marketing, and she's criticizing everyone in the office. She's acting like she's from just the upper crust of society and that she knows that she's only got to do this job for a few months and then she'll move on to something that will pay her millions of dollars probably. And at one point she said, well, being a teacher's assistant is basically like being a branch manager. So I think I'm more than qualified to do this. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, she couldn't, because of her attitude alone and her self-entitlement, she did not get hired to sell makeup door to door. What does that say? When you have 2 degrees from Georgetown, she got her bachelor's degree from Georgetown too. What's it say when you have a bachelor's and master's from Georgetown University, and because of how you think, you can't get a job selling makeup door to door? That was one of the biggest surreal learning moments of my adult life thus far.
What it says is that more people need to read The Case Against Education by Brian Kaplan.
Absolutely.
And that way you can understand what's actually going on with the educational system. So, all right, well, for people listening, this is a little bit different than we've been doing things in the past. I figured we'd just try something. So normally we open up every episode where me and Liz will sit there and talk about a song, and then we'll rate it on a scale of Bob Dylan to Eric July. And I actually sent Remso a song today. I don't know if we did this one before or not, but it felt like the appropriate one to send to Remso for some reason. I think maybe it's the ethnic ambiguity that he has. Maybe he is Cambodian. I don't know. Like, is he Asian? Is he Puerto Rican? Mexican? I don't know. I'm terrible with that kind of stuff.
I'm a racial chupacabra.
There you go.
For the record, I wrote a song called Chupacabra once.
That's bitchin'.
And it opened up with a sample from, what the hell was it? The Venture Brothers. There's an episode where they go and they find the Chupacabra. And Brock Sampson goes, Dr. Venture goes, what the hell was that? He goes, Chupacabra. They're all over Mexico. And so I wrote a song about apparently a Puerto Rican woman that took advantage of you.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Hunter Gathers, who, in the show, who's inspired by Hunter Thompson.
Yes.
Hunter Thompson is my favorite writer and really did inspire much of what took place in the book.
Which I'm super, super pumped about, by the way. So, oh man, So the song we chose to talk about today, and I wanted to involve the guest in it, is Holiday in Cambodia by the Dead Kennedys, which I find to be a fascinating song in that apparently not much has changed in 40 years since the song came out. Liz, you want to start us off with some of these lyrics?
Sure. So you've been to school for a year or two, and you know you've seen it all. In daddy's car, thinking you'll go far. Back east, your type don't crawl. Playing ethnic-y jazz to parade your snaz on your $5,000 stereo. Bragging that you know how the niggers feel cold, and the slums got so much soul.
See, I have her do that so that she can say
Yeah,
that word.
I caught on there.
That I'm not allowed to.
I'm not going to say it because that one soundbite will be taken out. And
I know, right?
Someday.
That's always it.
That's okay. I have no belief that I'm ever going to be important enough for it to matter. So, I mean, right there, that story you just gave about that girl from Georgetown wasn't good enough to sell makeup. Is that literally like who we're talking about in those first two paragraphs there?
Absolutely. Like it's so freaking unrealistic that this song should have actually applied to somebody's life. And in that situation, it really does show the disconnect. And even to a large degree, I feel like I could put myself in that situation because very much after graduating college, I was anticipating all these great brand opportunities and think tanks and politics and maybe academia and stuff. Mm-hmm. And what I find myself doing is living the exact opposite. I'm living at home, living a very blue-collar life because podcasting doesn't make a lot of money. And, it took me having to kind of, I'm not going to say slum it, but there are very much situations. Like my first day as a mall cop, I had to put out a literal dumpster fire. Like these teens who were skipping school got like these $20 cigars that they didn't know how to smoke.
Oh, geez.
So they lit them and threw them in a dumpster. And on my first shift, I had to put out a dumpster fire.
See,
that was very much my life in that moment. So I'm like, oh my God, like how is this happening to me?
He's like, I can't escape this anywhere in my life. It's just dumpster fire after dumpster fire. Doesn't matter if it's in the comment section or in the actual world. I'm just dumpster fires.
This is a manifestation of destiny right now.
So, it's time to taste what you most fear. Right guard will not help you here. Brace yourself, my dear. It's a holiday in Cambodia. It's tough, kid, but it's a life. It's a holiday in Cambodia. Don't forget to pack a wife. So, if those people aren't familiar, the song is juxtaposing like the people, the elites here in the U.S., kind of juxtaposing those same people that would tell us about how we have to go to war to help these people versus the people that actually live in these war-torn regions and how their lives actually work out and what these things happen to them. What do you think, Liz? You want to keep going?
Sure. You're a star belly snitch. You suck like a leech. You want everyone to act like you. Kiss ass while you bitch so you can get rich while your boss gets richer off of you. Well, you'll work harder with a gun in your back for a bowl of rice a day. slave for soldiers till you starve, then your head is skewered on a stake.
So, are you're not a foreign policy expert, are you, Remzo? I know you talk about a lot of stuff.
I would not necessarily call myself one, but I'm aware of enough things. And
I'm a Dr. Seuss expert, so I get the Sneetches reference, but
I do know that the whole massacre in Cambodia thing happened. I know that was not real communism, as I'm told.
Yeah, a couple million people, whatever. I see. This is the thing that I would keep coming back to. Is like I read these songs, they're old as hell, and the things that they complain about are still things that are going on today. But as someone from like the political world, I find it really interesting. So one of the things we always talk about on the show is like the whole punk rock movement, and obviously the Dead Kennedys would clearly be a punk band, an older punk band. But the fact that you have so many punk bands now that were shilling for Hillary in the last election and that have just seemed to buy into the statist propaganda, you just got to be on the right side of the statism.
Don't
it
get
baffles
me
me.
Started on that. Like, it really does bug me because, like one of my favorite guitarists and songwriters is Jack White from White Stripe, and my favorite band. Yeah, my favorite bands he was in was actually the Dead Weathers. It was a punk band out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I love the Dead Weathers. I'm a big Dead Weathers fan. But it's gotten
they
to
had
this,
the girl singer.
Yeah, like she's badass. I forget her name off the tip of my tongue right now, but she was awesome. Like the Dead Weathers folks, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. Great fun. But the biggest thing that I think that shocks a lot of people is that try telling somebody that the government doesn't love you, and just see how they process it, because they're gonna give you this look like, what do you mean? Then they're gonna they'll either go, of course I know, or of course they love me. They turn into a slave mentality really fast. And I think that, in terms of authority as a whole, like this is what kind of, like I call them like the religious libertarians. Like if you criticize anything of the private market, like it's a sin. But, much like, government doesn't love you, I also believe firmly that your bosses don't love you. And that in terms of finding independence, a certain degree of that comes from financial independence, the ability to walk away from bad situations. You can't walk away from your government, but you can walk away from a bad boss. But, kind of go back to the whole makeup situation. What my boss on that last day had basically said was, you need to almost get mugged and deal with a person who's almost about to die as long as you can sell your makeup. So what he was really asking me was, are you willing to die for this company for $8.50 an hour? And at that point, I was like, no, this is like shit. I can walk out.
Yeah.
Like, I think to a certain degree, in America, we tend to think that that's as far as evil people go. That's why I think in America, we villainize markets so much, because we take that fact that, some bosses are terrible people and we amplify it. We don't really know what no choices are like. We don't know what violence is. I hate it when I look on Twitter or something, I hear about the Proud Boys versus Antifa or something, and they're talking about civil war. It's like, you morons. If a civil war starts, it's not going to start between you and Antifa in a local park during the middle of the week. It's going to come, you're going to get shot by snipers from the rooftop. Like, that's how it's going to be. And most likely they're going to be cops. So,
well,
let's really think about this. I think the biggest thing that I've especially seen around DC, going from getting to work in the nice ivory buildings to selling makeup on the street, is that these people don't love you. But there's also an air of entitlement. There's a real separation. I can't tell you how many so-called friends of mine judged the living crap out of me when I told them I can't go to this thing tonight. I have to work closing at GameStop.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm proud. Like, listen, I'm not dissing my jobs. I'm honestly, being a mall cop was great for me just to learn how people are. Mm-hmm. And then working at GameStop, they hired me. I walked in with a paper resume that was all crumbled up, and they hired me on the spot. Why is it they were willing to do that, but people that had always told me that they were going to be there to help me out stuff didn't pick up my phone calls?
No, absolutely.
I am so appreciative of my time at GameStop. Like, I valued it. Like, I really did. I'm thankful for that opportunity they gave me just to work. It really did help my dignity to a large degree.
Well, I think what you do end up getting out of that you're definitely not going to get is you. There's those come to Jesus moments where you have to see what you really value in yourself. Like, what are the things that are real, inherent to you, and not just a function of where you grew up or what you're a part of. That you don't always get to see when everything's fucking handed to you. Like, I grew up. I won't say like I wasn't super poor, but I grew up lower middle class out in the boonies in New York State, upstate New York. You know, Liz, their story is harrowing compared to mine. But, you know, in the same vein, like, it's taken a lot of growing up to realize, you know, what my own value is and what level of respect I'm going to demand of people on myself. And I think a lot of that is that it's demanding that respect for yourself. I think that's the biggest disservice that we do to people now, especially, like you said, going out there and into the job market. Like, why would anyone look down on anyone for any job? Like, I will look up on anyone who has a job and is willing to go out and work. People I have issues with are people that won't.
Yeah. So, I completely agree. And I mean, this moment, you know, in just those lyrics, I'm both the man that's just dealing with stuff and, you know, living life, and I'm also the kid in Cambodia to a certain degree. Well, I'm not saying that there's a moral relevancy to it, but what I'm saying is, you know, reading that or listening to that, it does apply to me in different ways that I would not have experienced prior.
Well, and let me finish it up here, because this is so much what this is about. Now you can go where the people are. Now you can go where they get things done. What you need, my son, is a holiday in Cambodia where people are dressed in black. A holiday in Cambodia where you'll kiss ass or crack. And then he ends with, there's like the big bridge with, he just starts chanting Pol Pot over and over again. For people to really understand, like, this whole communism, whatever, socialism, however you want to view it, because they're all just grading on the same scale. There's a place that ends up, and it's never good for people. Like, that collective mentality always ends up in one place. It's what's funny to me is, like, I look at this, and this is clearly an anti-communist, you know, very even I wouldn't say this one focuses so much on the anti-government element of it, but it definitely is telling you to not bow into that whole thing. Mm-hmm. How do people still not get these lessons? Like, how are we still having this conversation today? Like, where they're trying to collectivize more and more of our government around us. Like, why is single-payer healthcare an issue? Why can't I just say, if you like Europe so fucking much, go to Europe. Go live off their system, please. Why fuck up what I have here?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, where would you put this song, Liz? On the scale.
I mean, I'm going to argue for an Eric July just because I feel like it's not just pointing out the problem, which a lot of songs do, but it is sort of saying, this is not the answer. And I think that would push you more.
You mean dead Cambodians is not the answer we're looking for?
Well, I mean, and obviously
you never know, right?
The idea that encompasses everything from that person coming out of college thinking they know everything to the dead Cambodians is not the answer. So I think that basically leaves out like all of the communist, all the Marxist ideas. So I'm arguing that it's really pushing you more towards liberty.
Oh, I would agree. What do you think? I want him to say Bob Dylan just so we can argue about it.
Oh man!
I mean, if you
totally Eric July. It's an inconvenient truth.
I should probably say there is also a halfway point if you don't think that it is, you know, either or, which is Lou Bega.
Basically, like it's a fun song. It's not really doing much for anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a step above Mambo number 5.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it definitely is pointing out some serious issues, and somehow serious issues that we have not dealt with culturally in 40 fucking years. That part amazes me. Hey,
how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportsll.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
So, well, anyways, we've talked about this song. Well, the one last thing I guess I really wanted to discuss with you. So, you what is you're writing these books? Was your process different on the second one? Obviously, it's a different type of book. How did that work out this time around?
Oh, I mean, it was absolutely different. So the first book was really kind of stream of thought. There were just, each chapter was dedicated to a certain point I was trying to make about, the myths, lies, and misconceptions about libertarians. But this book was different because for the first book, I think it was really aimed for an audience of people that are liberty curious or already libertarians. So if you were either in the building completely or you were standing right at the doorstep, that book was for you. This book is really, marketed for everybody regardless of political ideology because it's really meant for people that think that everything is okay the way it is and that this is normal. And by that, I mean, how our politicians interact with us and use our government to, do certain things. So this is for people that don't question that anything bad or malicious is happening at all. Just from the human element. They think that all bureaucrats are nice and they love you and that every public servant has the public interest at heart. This is for people that think that that's true. And what I want to do with this book is really kind of crack that door open so you could see inside and think, oh crap, like this is not how it is. Originally, it was going to be a tell-all nonfiction book about my time as, my time in politics. But I realized very fast, this isn't, it could very much easily turn into a bitch fest to a large degree.
Yeah.
It could be like a weird form of therapy. Or I could focus on providing hard truths, hard facts, but an entertaining and engaging story. So that way the reader gets as much out of it as possible. So what I did was I have two characters. One is a fictional character named Art Brown, who's a political operative working in our modern times. The other one is actually a nonfiction narrative telling of the life of who I think the most influential political loser of the 20th century is, and that's Governor George Wallace of Alabama. So what I do through both these characters, in each chapter, I weave their stories together between telling you stuff that's going on today with a fictional character who could very much easily be anybody, with a real-life human being whose life that actually happened is sometimes more outrageous than the fictional story you're also reading. So that way you're getting a taste of what would you do in this situation to look what this real life living person did in this situation. And by the end of the book, the big question is, after reading through the life of somebody that could very much easily be anybody to the life of somebody who actually did all these terrible things, what is the cost of success if you lose yourself in the process? And I think people really start to internalize that question. They're really going to start holding other people to a higher standard of things. And they're really going to be much more willing to question other people, even people on their own team. So this is a book for people that don't even think there's a problem.
Interesting take.
Yeah. So it's to get those people in to start asking these questions. Because, if I learned one thing selling makeup, it's that nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So if people can come to these broader conclusions about man and the state themselves, then I don't have to do anything than just provide a good, entertaining, and engaging story.
Well, and entertainment is so much the important part of a lot of it.
Yeah, I didn't want to write something, like the book is not very libertarian, but it has a lot of those libertarian elements of accountability, of devolving power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as Bastiat once said, or was it Lord Acton? It was one or the other. And if the story's not good, if the story's not entertaining, it doesn't matter how big it is or how many great points you put in there. No one's gonna read it.
Yeah.
So I wanted something that could appeal to your big socialist Bernie bro and your hardcore your hardcore Trump supporter and everyone in between.
That's a bold strategy. Those people don't like each other much these days.
But I think that is.
But they love to hate each other.
God, do they ever?
One of the magical things about fiction, you can kind of get a foot in the door where otherwise people would just shut that conversation down.
So we're primarily a music podcast, and obviously you're not a musician, so there's certain things to not talk about. But
I can't tell you this much. I can't jump in and do this.
Go for it.
Every chapter of the book was inspired by a Fall Out Boy song.
That's awesome.
I mean, is that a legit thing? Because that would be hilarious.
No, like literally to help me kind of process it. Like I thought, like I'm a big, like people can judge me about this, but I love musicals. And one of the reasons why I wanted to add fictional characters to a nonfiction story was because I think The Greatest Showman is a great movie.
My daughter loves the shit out of it.
Man, like it's a good freaking deal. Like P.T. Barnum in real life was a giant piece of shit, and Zac Efron and Zendaya were not real people.
Right.
But it got people to love the story, and they still learned some stuff out of it. So The Greatest Showman actually did somewhat inspire how I conceptualized the book in that matter. But I also, I love rock, and I love, I like pop rock to a large degree. So I was like, if this ever got made into a movie and or a musical, what would I want the tone to be? So each book is inspired by a different Fall Out Boy song. For example, each chapter is inspired by a different song. So for example, there's an actual fictional character named Satan Nixon. Satan Nixon. He's Richard Nixon, who's also the devil. So when he shows up in the book, it's inspired by the Fall Out Boy song Novocaine.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is hilarious, and that because like my question was officially going to be, so what was your playlist while you're writing this? And then not only do I get that, I get literally every chapter of this book was inspired by a Fall Out Boy song.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like the first chapter is inspired by the song "Last of the Real Ones" because it talks about the death of Robert Kennedy, who I think was one of the last, real civil libertarian candidates. I mean, he was a progressive on many things, but he was great on civil liberties. He was anti-war. I think I admire him much. So I made my protagonist for the fictional portion of the book. He loves Robert F. Kennedy. So for that chapter, it was "Last of the Real Ones" by Fall Out Boy. Chapter 2, with the beginning of chapter 2 takes place in the day of the 2016 election, is One More Yesterday. And I mean the list goes on, but yeah, I mean Novocaine, that really did kind of help craft the idea of the character of Satan Nixon.
When you actually release this book, we need to do a what do you call it? We need to do some type of contest for have people like write in, and maybe we'll buy a copy of the book and do give it out to whoever can properly name what songs each chapter's based off.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That would be so perfect. That would be so perfect.
So
some chapters are kind of hard to guess. Some are pretty easy because in certain places I kind of put hints of the lyrics in there in the dialogue. But if you love Fall Out Boy, this should be easy. If you're not, you're gonna have to listen to a crap ton of
We're marketing this book to Fall Out Boy people. Apparently, like have you started your Facebook marketing yet?
Oh my gosh,
we have a strange uptick in Fall Out Boy fans being involved in politics. This is weird.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
right.
Well, judging on all the way I'd see those politics going, probably a bad thing, but
probably.
So when is this particular book coming out?
August 30th, 2019. So literally about a month and a half from now. Right now, what you can do though is So we had an Indiegogo campaign. We met our goal in 10 days, thanks to all the fantastic people that helped support the production of the book. But you can pre-order the book. You know, you can get signed at a giant discounted rate of like 33%. You can get that. You can get a signed copy of my first book. You can get a signed limited edition poster. You can even get your name in the acknowledgments of the book, all on Indiegogo until I think it's until August 16th. So, you know, we met our goal. Everything is done. I'm actually ordering proof copies of the book this week. But if you want a discounted signed book, if you want any of the exclusive perks that come with it, if you want to be mentioned in the book, you know, everything starts at like $7. So go on Indiegogo now. Send you guys the link, and you know, if you want to go ahead and get in on the action fast before it goes to the general masses on August 30th, you can go ahead and check out our Indiegogo link until August 16th.
That's awesome.
Well, but here's the real question I asked: When's the audiobook version coming out?
Oh, good Lord, you.
So the cool thing is, you're gonna get 2 audiobooks within like a month and a half of each other. Nick, you were so amazingly talented. I had you read the foreword for my first book, Stay Away from the Libertarians, which comes out in
He's joking,
mid-August.
people. He just wanted me to stop asking him about when the audiobook was going to come out.
So what's really great is you can get 2 audiobooks back to back. The audiobook for Stay Away from the Libertarians comes out mid-August. I'm looking at August 20th release. The problem is that I'm recording it, and I suck at some of this, so I've had to do a lot of re-recording, so it's taken some time, but I'm looking at August 20th release for the Stay Away from the Libertarians audiobook. And then, this is the thing that I am so freaking excited about. October 15th, 2019, How to Succeed in Politics and Other Forms of Devil Worship, the audiobook, narrated by Johnny Rocket Adams.
Aw, snap.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll listen to it when that comes out. I don't read. I'm sorry, I don't have time.
Hey, it's all good. Like these audiobooks take time, but I'm glad that you were able to help me out with Stay Away from the Libertarians.
What I'm really waiting for is for you to realize that you just shouldn't worry about the print copy at all, and you just need to do the audiobooks, because you're gonna have like 1 billion sales on both of them when that happens.
Hey man, everything takes time, and you got to help everybody out a little bit. But you know, the fact that we've got 2, you know, my 2 books in audio format coming out within 2.5 months, like it's gonna be awesome.
That is awesome.
I'm hoping that he's just completely taken care of financially at that point, and can just, you know, he can go back into politics for no money.
I'd go back to GameStop sooner than that.
That's great timing, though. October, right before Halloween. You could really work that.
I've got a whole plan now. It's gonna be great. And for anyone that's listened to Johnny's show, Blast Off of Johnny Rocket and Raylene Lightheart, I mean, if you love his voice, if you're interested in the story at all, you know, I almost wish I could just self-produce a movie right now, because I think Johnny would make, you know, and I chose him for a reason. The book is very much written in Johnny's voice, and that was done unintentionally. So as I was thinking, how am I going to do the audiobook, I really couldn't think of anyone else other than Johnny to do it.
That's hilarious. Our boss, the man in charge.
Very cool.
So, right on, Remso. Any last minute things you want to get out before we call it an interview?
Nah, folks, just go ahead and check out that Indiegogo campaign to, you know, get some discounted, awesome signed merch. And for everything else I do, rwmartinez.com. That's rwmartinez.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Remso. You have yourself a good one, boss.
You too, guys. Take care.
Like the tops of the trees where the strongest wind blows, as the smell of corruption fills everyone's nose. And I say I'm leaving today. Though the road may be twisted, I won't lose my way. If life is a question, frail and unposed, will you seek out its answer, though the gate may be closed?
Well, what do you think, Liz? How did that go?
That was awesome. Just want to make sure we drop those links again. You can find out about the book on Indiegogo, and anything else from Mr. Remso Martinez is rwmartinez.com on the interwebs. And yeah, I'm really excited about this new book. I did not know it was fiction, so I'm super stoked to read it.
I'm sure you are.
And I'm sure
you
you'll
have access to it.
you'll enjoy listening to it when that audiobook happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped to listen to Johnny's fucking Coke and whiskey stained voice reading it out.
Yeah, that's smooth.
I don't know that
Mahogany
he does Coke, but I just
tender.
like to assume.
Oh, I was thinking Coca-Cola.
Oh no. How about we'll say to be polite to Johnny, we'll say cigars and whiskey. He looks like a cigars and whiskey kind of guy.
I thought it was like you mix the Coke in with the... Okay, anyways.
I mean, you can mix Coke and whiskey, I'm sure.
Like gin and juice.
No, I was still talking about the cocaine.
Oh, good lord.
Sounds like more fun. At any rate, so also, there is always the supportsll.com if you want to help support the show. I'm going to be rearranging things a little bit and including in there, if you want to be a part of, be able to comment and be a part of the Zoom meetings we have where we do our interviews. We will actually be allowing people within the Freedom Choir to jump on in and chat with us while we deliver the interviews. So that'll be a new fun thing going on, I think.
Yeah, you can see these pretty mugs live.
They're going to see the pretty mugs? They could have just heard us, but...
Oh, just hear the pretty mugs live? I don't
know. I don't care about video. I'm not pretty.
Okay. It's going to be live. That's the important part. It's going to be all the way live.
Yeah, so if you want to, you think there's a good question you'd like answered, the best place to be is right there.
Right on.
So, at any rate, that's supportsll.com. You can, if you want to just read about the shows and get the show notes where Liz spends a lot of time packing tons and tons of information. That is, sounds like liberty.com. But otherwise, you folks have yourself a good day. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for joining us.
No, they can't save you from the night impending. Torches are red, just watch the flames go wild. Feel the heat of his breath before you say his mouth. Your blood boils, the strength retreats. Cling to your role and work till you're